How cost of living pressures and high airfares are affecting Australians' holiday plans. The rising cost of living and interest rates in Australia is hurting the mid-tier travel sector, leaving many unable to afford long-haul European destinations. Instead, Australians are opting for more affordable options like Fiji, Bali and Vanuatu, which are experiencing a new uptick in visitors from down under. Furthermore, high airfares have kept the number of Australian residents travelling overseas lower than pre-pandemic levels. According to the latest Australian Bureau of Statistics figures, the number of short-term trips in April was 18.1% lower than in 2019. However, India is experiencing an increase in Australian visitors, mostly for family visits. Are you a winner or loser in Labor's South Australian budget? The South Australian government has released its state budget with a focus on health and housing. The budget promises $2.3 billion in new health funding and $475 million in concessions to make housing more affordable and available. However, the budget is in deficit by $249 million, and state debt will continue to increase to fund major infrastructure projects. The budget also includes the abolition of stamp duty for some first home buyers. The government hopes that these measures will benefit the majority of South Australians, but some are questioning the cost. Title: Victim's final police statement played in NT coroner's inquest. Less than a week before Kumanjayi Dixon set fire to a house, killing both himself and his partner Kumanjayi Haywood, Haywood told police that Dixon had threatened to kill her. On Thursday, an audio recording of her formal police statement was played in the NT coroner's inquest. The court had previously heard that Haywood had contacted a women's shelter looking for a room but was told there were no beds available. The shelter's chief executive stated that if they had known about Haywood's high-risk situation, they would have prioritized her. This case highlights the need for better communication between service providers and victims of domestic violence. Port Adelaide sink Geelong by 36 points to climb top of AFL ladder. Port Adelaide has beaten reigning champions Geelong by 38 points to climb to top spot on the AFL ladder. The Power produced 19 magical minutes to sink Geelong and extend their club record winning streak to 11 games. Port forwards Jeremy Finlayson and Todd Marshall were superb, while utility Dan Houston continued his excellent form. Acting captain Ollie Wines, Zach Butters, and Connor Rozee were also influential. Geelong's Gary Rohan scored 3 goals, all in the first quarter, while Zach Guthrie, Max Holmes, Mitch Duncan, and Isaac Smith were chief ball winners for the visitors. Title: Parliamentary inquiry calls for submissions to address compassion fatigue and shortage of vets. After years of neglect, the veterinary industry is finally getting some much-needed attention from the New South Wales Parliamentary Inquiry. The inquiry is currently calling for submissions to address the burnout and mental health issues facing the profession, and the shortage of vets. Robin Edelston, a veterinarian with over 30 years of experience, highlights the emotional burden of the job, which is a major contributor to compassion fatigue. The pressure to provide affordable services adds to the stress vets face, resulting in a shortage of trained professionals. The inquiry aims to find solutions to the industry's problems, including better education streams, provisions for after-hours services, and support for mental health. Title: New Zealand in recession, how it compares to Australia. New Zealand has been officially declared in a recession as the economy contracted over 2 consecutive quarters. The gross domestic product (GDP) data released by Stats NZ shows the economy fell 0.1% in Q1 of 2023. Although the figure is small, it could signal that New Zealand is in a period of economic contraction that will last longer than 6 months. The International Monetary Fund stated that New Zealand's economy is in the midst of a necessary policy-induced slowdown following the strong post-pandemic recovery. On the other hand, Australia's GDP grew in the last quarter of 2022 and Q1 of this year. Title: How to keep your child safe in childcare, tips for parents. Shocking images of a 10-week-old baby covered in scratches inflicted by another child at a Melbourne childcare centre have sparked cause for concern among parents this week. So, what can parents do to prevent injuries at childcare? Firstly, research the childcare centre before enrolling your child. Check if the centre complies with the national quality standards and if there are any complaints lodged against the centre. Secondly, communicate with the educators and the management regularly. Ask for updates on your child's well-being and report any injuries immediately. Lastly, teach your child to speak up for themselves and set boundaries. In case of an injury, remain calm and request a written incident report and action plan from the management. Victorian coroner orders inquest into rescue operation of 2 men who died after trench collapse. A coronial inquest has been ordered by a Victorian coroner to investigate the rescue attempt of Jack Brownlee and Charlie Howkins, who died after a trench collapse in Ballarat in 2018. The inquest aims to determine the impact of the emergency response on the deaths of the 2 men. Coroner Levaeus Peterson ordered experts in trench rescues and geotechnical and geomechanical disciplines to give their opinion during the inquest, which will focus on issues arising from the circumstances of the rescue. The inquest is to be held in November this year. Title: Farmers warned of potential risks from imported unlabeled fertilizers. Australian farmers have been cautioned about the risks of using incorrectly labelled or unlabelled fertilizers imported from unfamiliar markets. Fertiliser Australia, the industry body, has launched a national awareness campaign to highlight the risks to plant health, human health, the environment, and food safety. The organization's CEO, Stephen Annals, explained that the lack of labeling made it difficult to determine the quality of the product and what it contained. While he was not aware of any recent harm, he urged growers not to buy fertilizers without proper labeling. Fertiliser Australia aims to educate the industry on the importance of correctly labelled fertilizers to avoid potential risks. Parents warned of sextortion scammers targeting children as young as 10. Parents are being urged to monitor their children's use of games and apps to protect them from online predators. A former technology crime investigator and police officer, Paul Litherland, is running workshops across Western Australia's Great Southern to raise awareness of cybercrime. He warned that younger children are increasingly being targeted for scams and sextortion attempts, with children as young as 10 being approached. Litherland stressed the importance of discussing cyber safety with children from an early age and installing monitoring apps. Gaming companies and app developers also need to take more steps to prevent these crimes. Stamp duty relief and billions poured into hospitals in South Australian budget. South Australia's Labor government has announced its second budget, with a focus on addressing housing affordability and healthcare pressures. The budget includes a centrepiece plan to abolish stamp duty for first homebuyers, which is expected to help thousands. The government has also tipped an extra $2.3 billion into healthcare to ease pressure on hospitals. Treasurer Stephen Mulligan stated that the budget returns to surplus from next year and introduces no new taxes. No cuts to frontline services are planned, but 50 full-time public sector executives will lose their jobs to save the government $5 million next year. Title: **** Youth burglaries increase by 86% in Victoria. Victoria's latest crime statistics reveal a sharp rise in youth crime, with burglaries committed by 10 to 14-year-olds almost doubling in the past year. The overall crime rate in the state has increased slightly, but it's still lower than pre-pandemic levels. The increase in youth burglaries is concerning, with 15 to 17-year-olds being the most common age group responsible for aggravated home burglaries. Police are urging residents to lock their doors, windows, and gates and are conducting intensive operations each night to prevent burglaries and car thefts. They have arrested over 200 burglars and car thieves in the past 3 months alone. Title: South Australia's 2023-24 budget, health, housing and cost of living. South Australia's second budget aims to tackle the rising concerns of health, housing, and cost of living. The government has invested billions of dollars into the health system to resolve the ramping crisis and reduce ambulance wait times. However, it remains a challenge as the demand for hospital services continues to rise. The cost of living relief measures target low-income households such as energy bill relief schemes. Housing measures aim to help people save a 2% deposit, and there's good news for first-time homebuyers who can now save cash with the scrapping of stamp duty. The budget has benefits, but not everyone is a winner. Title: Banana fungal disease spreads further in Queensland. The Panama tropical race 4 (TR4) fungal disease, which has no known treatment or cure, has been detected on an 8th Queensland property in the Tully Valley. The disease starves banana trees of nutrients, leading to the eventual death of the plants. Infected areas can no longer grow most banana types, including the popular Cavendish variety. While prevention measures such as on-farm biosecurity have slowed the spread of the disease, the affected trees will need to be destroyed. Researchers are trialing a more palatable type of the Goldfinger banana variety, which has some resistance to the disease. Tasmanian homes ruled unsafe, set for demolition. 3 newly built houses in Hobart's northern suburbs are set to be demolished after they were found to be structurally unsound and not built to code. The properties were evacuated in 2021 after an audit of construction work, and 2 years later, 3 have been served with demolition notices. Glenorchy City Council Mayor Beck Thomas said the houses were constructed on unusable platforms, making them structurally unsound. Investigations found that the private building surveyor had signed off on the construction, despite the houses being unsafe. 5 other properties on the site were also deemed unsafe but did not pose the same risk. Canberra man found guilty of murdering partner who clung to bonnet of his car. Michael O'Connell, a man from Canberra, has been found guilty of murdering Danielle Jordan, his partner. The prosecution argued that Jordan fell from the bonnet of O'Connell's car, resulting in catastrophic injuries and her eventual death in the hospital 2 days later. During the trial, O'Connell admitted to having a turbulent relationship with Jordan, who he regularly described as the love of his life. The jury was asked to decide whether it was beyond reasonable doubt that Jordan was on the bonnet of the car when she fell and that O'Connell knew she was there. O'Connell will be sentenced at a later date. Title: Working Australians struggling to afford basic needs, new data shows. Hundreds of thousands of working families in Australia are unable to afford a basic, healthy lifestyle, according to new research by the UNSW Social Policy Research Centre. The study, commissioned by the Fair Work Commission, aimed to determine how much income is enough to allow individuals to participate in society. The research found that even those who earn more than the minimum wage are at risk of slipping into poverty. Single-income households and those with children are particularly affected, with some families struggling to make ends meet each week. The study has been released ahead of the minimum wage case annual wage review. Sudden surge of record-high temperatures could propel 2023 as warmest year on record. Global climatological records are breaking at a rapid rate, with 2023 likely to be the warmest year on record. This year has already produced record high ocean temperatures, record low Antarctic sea ice, and global air temperatures well above average all year. As the Pacific transitions from La Niña to El Niño, this year's ranking will climb. The trend shows no sign of slowing, with this year likely to be the warmest on record for our oceans. This is a somewhat surprising result, as historically the rebound from cooler La Niña years has not occurred so rapidly. Title: Hundreds feared dead in tragic migrant boat sinking off Greece. A trawler carrying hundreds of migrants sank off the coast of Greece. Survivors and authorities have reported that the boat was packed with people seeking asylum, and many were fleeing conflicts and hardship in the Middle East and Africa. Rescuers have saved 104 passengers and recovered 79 bodies, but hundreds are still missing. The Greek Coast Guard and merchant ships attempted to provide assistance but were repeatedly rebuffed by those on board. Experts call for safe and regular pathways to migration and a robust search and rescue regime led by states to prevent tragedies like this from happening in the future. Title: Hong Kong's protest anthem disappears from streaming services as government seeks ban. Various versions of the pro-democracy protest anthem Glory to Hong Kong have disappeared from music streaming services, including Apple's iTunes Store and Spotify, after the city's government sought an injunction banning the song. The anthem was the unofficial anthem of Hong Kong's 2019 pro-democracy street protests. The city's leader, John Lee, said in a regular government press conference that the song was not compatible with the national interest. Critics of the national security law say that Hong Kong's freedoms, including freedom of speech, have eroded swiftly. The application for an interim injunction will be heard by the High Court on July 21. More than $240,000 donated to Hunter Valley wedding bus crash victims and their families. In a show of support and generosity, a fundraiser for the victims of the fatal bus crash in Hunter Valley has raised over $242,000 in less than 2 days. The fund is being co-managed by the government and Rotary Australia, and almost 900 donations have already been made by individuals and organisations. The money will be used to cover expenses like funeral costs, medical bills, and out-of-pocket expenses from loss of work. The Singleton Rotary branch will determine how the funds will be allocated. The crash claimed 10 lives and left 25 others injured. The driver, Brett Andrew Button, has been charged with dangerous driving. Title: Blues superstar Latrell Mitchell ruled out of must-win State of Origin clash. New South Wales' hopes of keeping the State of Origin series alive have been dealt a severe blow, with star centre Latrell Mitchell ruled out of the must-win second game against Queensland due to a calf injury. Mitchell had missed the series opener due to the same injury, and his return was expected to bolster the Blues' backline. Penrith's Stephen Crichton will start in Mitchell's absence, while Canterbury's Matt Burton has been named as the 18th man. The Blues must win the game in Lang Park to prevent Queensland from winning their third series in 4 years. Title: Ski lifts open at Victoria's Alpine Resorts after snowfall. Ski lifts will finally open at Victoria's Alpine Resorts this weekend after a slow start to the ski season last weekend. Mount Hotham and Falls Creek received generous snowfall of 33 cm and 36 cm respectively, allowing for the opening of the ski lifts. Mount Buller's lifts remained in operation but relied heavily on snow machines. Ski schools and lessons are scheduled to operate at Mount Hotham and Falls Creek this weekend, with another 45 cm of snow expected from Sunday. The resorts are expecting a busy season ahead with winter school holidays approaching. 9 women sue Bill Cosby over alleged sexual assaults in Nevada. 9 women have filed a lawsuit against Bill Cosby for sexual assault in Nevada. The lawsuit claims they were individually drugged and assaulted between approximately 1979 and 1992 in Las Vegas, Reno and Lake Tahoe homes, dressing rooms and hotels. One of the women alleges that Cosby lured her from New York to Nevada, drugged her in a hotel room with non-alcoholic cider and raped her. The 85-year-old former Cosby Show star has now been accused of rape, sexual assault and sexual harassment by more than 60 women. Cosby has denied all allegations involving sex crimes. Title: UK Parliament report accuses Boris Johnson of deliberately misleading public over COVID-19 lockdown parties. Description: a UK parliamentary committee has found former Prime Minister Boris Johnson guilty of intentionally misleading the House of Commons over lockdown parties held in Downing Street. The report, which followed a year-long investigation, recommended a 90-day suspension from the House and a by-election in his seat. However, Johnson stepped down as MP before the report's release. Johnson denied the allegations, calling the report a charade and attacking the integrity of the committee. The report also accused Johnson of complicity in the campaign of abuse and attempted intimidation of the committee. Hashtags. Steve Smith cleared to play first Ashes Test despite finger blow in nets. Australian cricket star Steve Smith has been cleared to play in the first Ashes Test after a minor scare in training. The right-hander took a knock on his gloves in the nets, but was cleared of any damage the following day. Smith is hoping to improve on his Bradman-esque 2019 Ashes series, during which he scored 774 runs from 7 innings at an average of 110.54. He said he is better now than before and feels that he can repeat his success. England will be armed with more plans for him, but Smith said he is ready for whatever is thrown at him. Champion yachtsman and wine boss Sir James Hardie dies aged 90. Sir James Hardie, South Australia's champion yachtsman and wine boss, has died at the age of 90. Known as Gentleman Jim, Sir James was part of the team that wrested the America's Cup from the United States and was knighted in 1981 for his services to yachting. He also ran the family wine company, Hardies, for several decades before it was taken over in 2003. Sir James was praised for his philanthropy, work in the wine industry and yachting, and his contribution to sailing. He is survived by his wife Joan, brother David, sister Pamela, and sons David and Richard. Indian police charge senior government MP with sexual harassment of female wrestlers. Indian police have filed charges of sexual harassment and criminal intimidation against the chief of the country's wrestling federation, a powerful member of the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party (BJP), following complaints by female wrestlers. Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh, a member of parliament from Prime Minister Narendra Modi's party, faces up to 3 years in jail if convicted. Singh has rejected all allegations against him. More than 155 people have been questioned during the investigation, following months of complaints by the country's top wrestlers, including several Olympic and Asian Games medalists. The next hearing is slated for later this month. Title: Boris Johnson found to have deliberately misled UK Parliament over Downing Street parties. A parliamentary committee has found UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson deliberately misled the UK Parliament over his knowledge of parties held at Downing Street during the strict lockdown period. Johnson had previously maintained that his office had not broken any rules when rumours of parties at Number 10 began to circulate. However, the parliamentary committee found that to be untrue. Johnson has denied the findings, making him the first Prime Minister to have knowingly misled Parliament. The scandal has caused his reputation to suffer a significant blow. This is a major story that highlights the importance of transparency and integrity in governance. Two-time Oscar winner Glenda Jackson, who mixed acting with politics, dies at 87. Legendary actress and former politician Glenda Jackson has passed away at 87 years old. Jackson, who won 2 Academy Awards for Best Actress, had a successful career in both film and theatre before transitioning to politics. She won a seat in Parliament in 1992, representing the left-of-centre Labour Party. After leaving Parliament, Jackson returned to acting and won a Tony Award in 2018 for her role in 3 Tall Women. Jackson's death marks the end of a career that combined artistic excellence with political activism. She will be remembered as one of the greatest women actors of her generation. Title: Woman dies after being pushed into ravine near Germany's Neuschwanstein Castle. One woman has died and another injured after being pushed into a ravine by a man near the scenic Marienbrücke Bridge in southern Germany's Neuschwanstein Castle. The suspect has been arrested and is in custody. The women were reportedly Americans and the scuffle ensued after the man sexually harassed them. Marienbrücke is a popular attraction for tourists with a panoramic view of the castle. State prosecutors in Kempten have not commented yet, but the incident highlights the need for improved safety measures in popular tourist areas. Title: Australian Sports Commission releases guidelines for transgender inclusion in high-performance sport. The Australian Sports Commission (ASC) has released guidelines for transgender and gender-diverse athletes in high-performance sport. The guidelines align with the International Olympic Committee's inclusion-first approach, emphasizing exemptions on a case-by-case basis. The guidelines ensure compliance with the Sex Discrimination Act, making it unlawful to discriminate, harass, or victimize on the basis of sex or gender identity. CEO Kieran Perkins clarified the misconception that a man can simply identify as female and compete in the women's category, saying the guidelines require a demonstration of an extended period of physiological changes. The guidelines promote a nuanced approach to ensure safe and diverse opportunities for all athletes. India, Pakistan evacuate over 180,000 people as cyclone makes landfall. Over 180,000 people in Pakistan and India were evacuated as Cyclone Biparjoy made landfall. The cyclone caused flash floods, heavy rain, and high winds. The storm was expected to reach wind speeds gusting up to 140 kmph before slowing down in India's Gujarat province. The intensity of the cyclone appeared to have lost some of its strength. Pakistan is among the top 10 countries affected by climate change, making preparations for natural disasters all the more urgent. Experts say climate change is leading to an increase in cyclones in the Arabian Sea region. Source: